Hi everyone, welcome to Here We Are, Brattleboro's community talk show. On our show today, we have Ashlyn Bristle and Abraham McClurg, and they are from Rebop Farm, a beautiful little farm in West Brattleboro, where they have a diversified and very vibrant thing going on there. They also offer workshops, farm dinners, and they have house parties, house concerts actually, with great music in their new farm store. Caring attention is apparent in everything that they do. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being on the show and taking time out in the middle of the day to come on. Both of you are not from the area. You're from far away. You're from the South, Ashlyn, and Abraham, you're from Washington State, right? How did you end up here?
I grew up in Washington State on a small homestead farm and grew up with dairy cows and timber and a sawmill, and actually moved to the city when I was 8.
Being Seattle?
Being Seattle, yep. And I think it was a wonderful time to be in a rural area and also a really good time to move to town and have access to better schools and all the things that cities offer.
Yeah. And Ashlyn?
I'm from North Carolina originally, from Western North Carolina. And I originally went to school to be a teacher and graduated right at the beginning of the economic downturn. So I left that place, which I think is one of the most beautiful places in the world. Such beautiful mountains, and the natural landscape is hard to say goodbye to, but came up to Vermont when teaching positions became scarce.
And you went to the farm and wilderness camp in Vermont, didn't you?
I worked there, yeah.
Worked
so
there.
when I graduated, I was looking for a job in the arts and teaching, which were very rare in North Carolina because they were cutting a lot of the non-core subject teachers. So I went there to the first year to work as the arts head on the teenage camp. So they have a variety of camps. And the one that's for a more teenage group of kids is focused on mostly farming and working, but also has a really strong arts component. So I came up and worked in that job for the summer and realized, what I actually would like to be doing is just working on the farm and working with the kids on the farm, which transitioned into just wanting to farm.
Really?
Moving away from the education piece.
Really? So you didn't have any farming in your background?
No, not really. I had started working on some dairies when I was in college, goat dairies, and fell in love with it, but didn't have family members that were farming.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons I'm really glad that you're both on is because I've been wanting to talk to some people who are younger farmers and realizing that that there's a new farm culture, just even if you're on the fringes of it in this area, there's so many young people coming back to farms if they're family, or working on farms or starting new farms.
Well, I think there's a number of things in play. I think that there's a market demand that's mirroring sort of a national and statewide and local conversation we're having about farms and about food and where our food is coming from and how it impacts the earth and how it impacts our health. And so you're just seeing a wider market share for small farms, for diverse farms, for farms that are producing organically. And so there's just a nice market share for that that's growing, and so there are people that are responding and becoming becoming farmers. But in a local sense, I think there's some things that the state of Vermont has going for it. There's really strong social support, which is great for young people that want to get into farming. Because one of the major issues that you see young people coming up against is access to land, access to capital, which farms are businesses and they take both of those things. If you're putting all of your income into this one basket to try to build capital and to build all of the giant rusting pile of implements that you need to run your farm, you have very little income left over at the end to pay for healthcare, to pay for food, and there's a really strong social support network in Vermont that I think is very appealing for young people who are looking at like I'm going to have limited resources, and farming is very physical. So when I cut myself and I need stitches, is it going to bankrupt me?
Yeah.
So-
What were the kinds of things that supported you too in that?
Well, healthcare was one of the big things as a young person in my 20s in low-paying jobs, and using all of that money to either pay for student loans or to pay for my farm. Knowing that I could have good healthcare was really important to me. So, yay, Vermont.
Yeah. There also was the Working Lands Grant.
Yep. So that was a little later for us. We just got that last year, and it definitely has supported us moving forward into a new phase of our farm. It's also a really competitive grant. So I think in our class last year there were 10 or 12 other farms statewide that got it, but Southern Vermont tends to be less represented statewide generally, and in agriculture. So I think that was to our benefit. They wanted probably a farm down here, but also our business plan was really tight, and our proposal was really strong. So we had those things going for us.
And you got support in those areas
Yeah.
as well, right?
Yeah.
Helping with business plans and all of that.
We went through farm viability, which is a 2-year program that basically we worked with a consultant who helped us refine our business plan, hire some other consultants to help us specifically with financials or grazing and pasture management, and basically kicked our butts and helped hold us accountable while we did the things that weren't as fun but were really necessary to make our business stronger. I think it can be really challenging to do one thing and be successful enough and have a large enough market in our community to support a family or to support a business that supports a family.
Yes.
At the same time, if you have too many diversified interests or enterprises, you get spread really thin, and you have to figure out which ones you can actually make money on. So we've started small and gotten bigger and sort of had these pulses where we've figured out which things we want to keep and which things we love doing and which things can make money. So currently we have 8 different types of animals that we raise for meat, and we have cows that we milk for raw milk, and we have honeybees for honey, and we have a sugar bush that we tap for maple syrup.
Yes.
And those are our primary production enterprises.
And they're all labor intensive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's not one where you sit back and watch someone else do it.
No.
And so choosing to be a meat CSA, which there aren't that many of in the area, obviously, as you said, you've got a lot of animals on the farm. You have relationships with these animals. Can you talk about that and the whole sequence of things with having a meat CSA?
I'm really drawn to animal agriculture because I love the relationships that I get to have with my animals. I love what they do for our land. We're very focused on our soil and improving our soil and sequestering carbon in our soil, which is along with the dairy, might be the center of what we're doing on our farm. And you can do that so effectively with perennial pasture with animals that I can't speak highly enough of what they can do when well managed. But the reality is, if you run an animal farm, you have to have income from somewhere, and so often that looks like meat. And so I think for people with a lot of empathy and a lot of love for their animals, that can be a really challenging, a piece of tension in your business. And so we've cultivated a business that can do that, that can let us have enjoyment in our daily work, that can be managed in such a way that we improve the land that we're on, and we improve the land as a piece of our being in community with other people, which I could talk about for a long time. There's some really interesting stuff happening in ecosystem services that farmers provide for their community that is just really interesting and long-winded. And then So we've cultivated our business so that we can have a direct relationship with the families that we send our meat out to, so that it feels really relational, even after we've slaughtered our animals or sent our animals to a slaughterhouse, and they're now cuts of meat that are nourishing our bodies and nourishing our customers. The CSA allows us to have a really sort of intimate connection all the way to the end, which feels important to me as the person who took care and often birthed them and loved them and just put my whole heart into growing them.
Yes, and you go through a whole cycle with them, and a whole cycle for yourselves as well, but their life cycle. So going in with that, I would think would be a very different approach.
Yeah, although I don't know many farmers that don't feel that way about their animals. I think that that's probably a common thread in even people that have enormous dairy farms, all the way to somebody that's got a couple goats in their backyard or a couple chickens. I think we all have this sense of responsibility and this show-up-itude.
Show-up-itude? That's a great word.
Yeah, it's the like, I have no other option but to take good care, so I will take good care.
Yeah.
I think that that's a common thread that I love, that makes me feel a lot of kinship with lots of different kinds of farmers.
Oh, interesting. Yes, yes, as well as the animals
as
themselves.
Well as the animals.
Yeah. And along with that, actually, another of your focuses is on raw milk, which there aren't many places in the area to get raw milk.
Yeah.
And it is a very there's quite a way of going about that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
So yes, there aren't very many places locally that you can get raw milk. In the state, there are 2 tiers of raw milk, the ways of selling raw milk legally. So there's tier 1, which is sort of a smaller scale. There's tier 2, which is a larger scale that allows you to also deliver to people's homes. You can sell more milk on a weekly basis, and there are more testing involved and more hoops to jump through to be able to sell more milk and do it in different ways. We are currently a tier 1 raw milk dairy, and we are being tested, our milk is being tested voluntarily because we're planning to do tier 2. If once we do that, we'll be the only dairy, I think, south of like Rutland, like the only dairy in the bottom third of the state.
Really? And that's actually a CSA as well, is that right?
Yeah, it is. I think raw milk is interesting in that it is a piece of the cultural heritage of this state. There's a lot of, I think people feel Vermonty when they drink raw milk or know that it's accessible in their communities, even if they don't consume it. But there are some safety concerns about it, just like any food. There are ways to produce it in a safe way, there are ways to consume it in a safe way, and then there are ways that are not. And so you want to be really careful to do that, to make sure that you're well within the lane of safety. So there are things that we do as producers to limit both our risk and to limit risk to our customers. And there are things that we highly encourage our customers to do that sometimes I'm sure they do and sometimes they don't. So we can't control that, so we control everything that we can to make it as safe as possible. So we are very careful about cow health, cow cleanliness, and that's sort of the number one thing. We're very, very careful about cleanliness in our milk room. During milk collection, that milk is chilled properly and agitated while it's chilled, which is one of the main things that you can do to prevent listeria from growing in your milk in the proper amount of time. And then we rewash and sanitize all jars and insist that they're ours, just so that we don't accidentally get a dirty jar or someone brings a dirty jar, because we're legally liable for that. So
it's quite a process.
It is.
I was lucky enough to be at the farm, and so they were both Ashlyn and Abraham were talking about what it takes to make raw milk, and it is really amazing the amount of detail and attention that goes into it. I'd also like to say at this point that Rebop Farm has a website, and a lot of this information and a lot of the delineation of the different parts of the farm are on there. It's a beautiful site, and we'll have the information at the end of the show as well. And so you folks are you're not outliers. You're not out there in the wilderness. You're in West Brattleboro, you're on Sunset Lake Road. There are other farms not far by, and you have relationships with these other farms and with the people on the farms.
So lucky to be part of a farming community.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I went up to Jake Hamilton's farm
For West Brat, or is it? Yeah.
And we get wood shavings from Jake. He also makes the large part of our hay that we use all winter. That he hays on our neighbors' fields, and then we go and pick up with the tractor. We're going to start sugaring in another week.
Right.
And then we take some of our sap to the Robb family for their sugar operation.
We also have been working with Northwoods Maple. We don't have a sugar house, and they do, and are incredibly knowledgeable and skilled. And so we are able to have maple syrup from our trees and their trees in our store and available to our customers because they've been so generous in working with us.
We stock a lot of vegetables and produce from our neighboring farms.
So your farm stand.
Yes. So we just had a delivery yesterday from Wild Carrot Farm, who were selling their greens all winter long because they're doing a great job producing greens in the winter.
Which is really challenging to do in a place where it's winter for 6 months out of the year.
Yeah, that's right.
Really good farmers.
Yeah.
We have 11 different producers in the farm store right now. We have Wild Carrot in the summertime. Taploo Guilds is offering a flower CSA pickup in our store.
Oh, nice.
And their flowers are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Who else do we have that's local? I don't even know if we have some really small producers, which is so cool. We have mushrooms available from one of our CSA customers who's starting a mushroom enterprise, but I don't even know if he has a name for it yet. But it's available in the store, and you can see on his packaging. And he has different blends for different applications, which I've been eating a lot this winter. We have Nitty Gritty Grain Company, which is from the Champlain Valley, but they are one of the only Vermont-grown grain producers because it's a difficult crop to grow in the state of Vermont.
Yeah. And was one of your ideas of having a farm store, farm store, was it to represent other farms?
We definitely wanted to work with other farms. We wanted to. We found that at the scale that we produce at, we're not a great fit often for grocery stores or co-ops, but we definitely needed other sales outlets, and we know that there are other farms that are sort of in that situation. So it's nice to have sort of those in-between places.
Yeah. And that, again, it goes back to this new farm culture that's happening. I mean, there's so much integration between you and communication and sharing and that kind of goodwill among you. And there are a lot. There are a lot in this area. So I just think it's really encouraging. Also, the fact that you do have elders who are around, who've been doing it. I know in some cases it goes back to the 1700s, some of these farms, right? And they will tell you those stories, right?
It's true. We've been really lucky to connect with the Gorse Farm in the last year. They're in Whitingham. They're I think on their 9th generation. They're an organic dairy farm that's shipping to Stonyfield, to Organic Valley. Oh, I got my organics mixed up. But Abby is about our age, and her father, Leon, is just so full of wisdom and skill, just high skill that is an email away. I still can't believe that I can send him an email and get an answer.
It's really wonderful. I mean, I would think it would just be so not only encouraging for you folks, but just to have that wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
Actually, Abraham, the other day you said something great, that we are so much stronger when there are more of us, which isn't necessarily an American model for business, right?
But it's so true in farming. More farms. I prefer there to be more farms.
We don't tend to think of our farming neighbors as competitors. They tend to, I guess there's enough people here to support all of us, and we really want to see everybody else succeed as much as we want ourselves to succeed. So the more successful farms there are in our area, the better all of us will be. I think the community will recognize that there are farms in their neighborhoods
Yeah.
that are, a bicycle ride away or just down the road
Right.
that actually produce things that they want. And we do enough, or we try to do enough to support all the other farms so that if somebody finds us, they can also find out about
Right.
the vegetable farm that's a couple miles away.
Yeah, or if we're out of beef, we can send somebody to the Franklin farm because we know that they have beef stocked in their farm store.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's wonderful that that this really seems to be working. So of course, one question that we're all wondering is, where did the name Rebop come from?
Rebop was what we named our first cow that we got together. She came as a heifer calf from Farm and Wilderness Camp because Ashlyn worked there and her farming mentor is still there. We have a connection to her. And so she had a small calf that was named Regina at the time.
Regina, as in queen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
But when you're naming cow families, you keep the first letter of the name down a family line. So her mother's name
Was Rhubarb.
Yeah. And
Rhubarb, and so
Rhubarb.
it got shortened.
No, there's a Prairie Home Companion skit about rhubarb pie with a rhubarb pie. And so rhubarb yielded Rebop.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks for explaining. Now we know.
yeah.
You have events there.
Yeah.
And not only do you have house concerts, you have some contra dancing going on. Yeah.
Occasionally we do have some dances
Yep.
on the farm. We're doing at least one concert a month,
Oh,
but sometimes it's closer to 3 or 4 a month.
really?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm projecting that we're going to have 30 concerts at the farm this year based on our booking into the spring.
Wow, that's very enterprising. Yeah.
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 It's been really, like for us, we don't leave the farm all that often. So it presents a really wonderful opportunity, one, to have live music that we get to
Yes.
enjoy.
Yeah.
And 2, it brings a lot of different people to the farm that aren't just coming because they know we have raw milk or they know
Right.
that we have meat that they want.
Yes.
But they're coming for music,
Yeah.
and then they also learn about the agricultural community that's right here.
Yeah.
And they tend to draw different audiences.
Yes.
So there's always new people coming and seeing us. And then we have a lot of core audience members that know that we consistently have really enjoyable things happening.
Yeah.
And so they come because they know our farm and they know us and they assume that we'll be doing something fun.
Yeah.
And then they learn about new musicians or
That's
new
wonderful.
artists.
Yes. Yeah. It seems to work.
Yeah.
It seems to work all the way around. You also are doing workshops.
Yeah, we are. We've done, well, we have a couple workshops that we do. The one that is the most consistent is our cheese making workshop.
Cheese making. Yes.
Yeah, so I've created a workshop for people that want to make cheese at home, not necessarily people that want to have cows or make cheese professionally. So it's a really sweet one, and there's actually one coming up at the end of February, I think February 29th. It's a leap year.
Yes, it is. That's
yeah,
right.
so that one's really sweet, and when you do it at the farm, you can do it with our milk, which is phenomenal. We have Jersey cows. They're very high fat, and they're primarily grass-fed or hay-fed in the wintertime, which means that the quality is great and the flavor is excellent. The color is really nice.
Yeah.
So,
Ashlyn showed me a bottle of milk where there's a bottle of milk and that much of it, is cream. So it's
it's
a
pretty
beautiful
special
thing.
milk. So we have that workshop. That's one of sort of our anchor core workshops. And then we have fruit tree pruning. We have beekeeping. Next summer, we're probably going to do some fermentation or canning workshops for people that sort of want to dip their toes into that.
Yeah.
And all of them are really to help people engage with their agricultural landscape more deeply, to be able to consume more agricultural products that are grown here in our community.
Right.
So if you can buy a big veggie CSA and you're not quite sure what to do with it all, maybe you can ferment some of it, or you can can some of it, or you can get a milk CSA and make yogurt out of the small portion of milk that you can't
So everything you're doing is
drink.
an organic process,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it covers sort of everything.
Yeah.
I know that that being a farmer is not an easy job. I think that
Yeah.
two words, hard and work, go together for you folks. But there's a lot you have to juggle every day, right? I mean, you've got climate and weather, you've got employees, you've got marketing. So PR, right?
Yeah.
You're doing social media, and you've got inspections coming down, and all kinds of things. Stress levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can get really high. We have a goal this year of having better balance in sort of our working life, and our goal is always to have the farm be viable. But for us, that also means not having work look like it did last season. I think seasons flex, but our farm has been in a huge growth cycle for the last 2 years, I would say.
Yes.
All of our systems have been bursting at the seams, and we've just been scaling up and scaling up. So last year, I think we didn't get a day off for about 6 months, and most of our work weeks were between 70 and 90 hours. So it can't look like that forever.
No.
But there's also, it's a low margin business, and so you have. In some ways, you have to learn how to be very, very efficient, and in other ways, you have to let go of the things that you went into farming with sort of a sense of romance about what it was going to look like. You have to let go of a lot of those things in order to actually have a business that's like tight and can sustain you and that will not burn you out.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, at the end of the long, long day, I would think that there would be a level of satisfaction, that comes from doing something that you love and that you want to do.
Yeah. I think yes, and I think that can only sustain you for so long, and so you have to keep that feeling in balance.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
by doing the things that you can do to
reduce.
stay there. Country dancing, right? Or having a farm-to-table meal.
Yes.
Which is something else that you offer there too, right?
We
At
do.
times.
We do have some farm dinners.
Yeah.
Yes, that we've done in conjunction with Open Farm Week or with the Strolling of the Heifers.
Right.
And we're on the farm tour for the Strolling of the Heifers as well.
Oh, great. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So in general, folks should stay tuned. They should. You have a lot of these things that will be in the papers, but also social media.
Yeah.
And again, as I said, the websites. That the website that you have. Any last words?
Come visit our farm.
That's right. That's right. You're very welcoming to
Yeah.
having people visit. That's something I did want to mention.
Especially if you call ahead.
It's true, but we do have a farm store that is open from 8 to 8, 7 days a week, so that you can come and sort of look at our products and enjoy being in the farm store. It's got a really beautiful porch with a nice view, so and we have benches set up, so if you would like to do that, you're welcome to. If you want to have a visit that's a little bit more farm related, like you'd like to see the animals, email or call us, and we're really happy to set up a time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place to bring kids. It is one of the most beautiful spots in Brattleboro, I have to say.
Yeah.
It's an incredible view, but it's the rolling hills, it's the whole deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and beautiful animals roaming around as
Yeah.
well. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you on.
Yeah.
Great to hear all this information and knowing that it's really just a couple miles down the road. It's so close.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for joining us today and for hearing Ashlyn and Abraham's stories and hearing about Rebop Farm. And join us next week. We'll be back. We will have another guest on. Here we are.